There is a rise right now in what we call African spirituality. There's a rise right now in African spirituality, particularly in South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, you name it. The major countries in Africa right now are speaking about African spirituality, moving away from the European beliefs, moving away from Christianity, moving away from Islam, moving away from Buddhism, Judaism, everything that is not idealistically originated in Africa. They are doing away with it and they are bringing back their so-called African spirituality. Now I want to speak to the danger of this thing. There's a huge danger towards African spirituality, and it's mainly concerned in one thing: the spiritual aspect of it. Because remember, when you move to African spirituality, you are more inclined to depend upon the belief of your ancestors, the belief of the ones who came before you. Yes, they might say that they believe in the supreme God, that there is a God. We have names for him in African beliefs, right? You might say that, but the problem is this: the protection that is guaranteed by religion, the protection that is guaranteed by Christianity, protection that is guaranteed by Islam. Once you go into African spirituality, all of that goes away. You lose all of that protection. You lose the Spirit of God. You must remember that. You lose the Spirit of God in its entirety, because now you have to believe and incline yourself to the spirits of your forefathers, the spirits of your ancestors, the spirits of your great-grandmothers, and all of that. Now, those people, you must understand, while religion speaks about specific books of enlightenment and reading them and understanding them and rejuvenating your spirit through them, through gospel music as well, all of these avenues that a person has in order for them to ensure that they have a shield of protection for their spirit, for their soul, even for their entire being, their entire body. Once you move into African spirituality, all of that falls away. I am telling you, I've been through that journey of trying to venture into African spirituality. It leaves you empty for attacks from all kinds of levels. Because you must remember, even as we say that we want to venture into African spirituality, going even back to Kemet, going to Egypt itself, if you begin to study Egypt, you begin to see that they believed in deities, they believed in gods, they had rules and regulations, they had laws, right, which would keep them in line and which would secure their spirit to say that if you do this, God will do this, this supreme deity would do this. In African spirituality, you do not have that. You do not have the protection that religions, specifically outside of Africa, will provide you. You are left empty of anything that will leave you with substance. You might get told that, okay, if you sacrifice to your ancestor, you will get this and that. Then in that way, it becomes a ritualistic belief for you to obtain something from a said spirit. Remember, these are the spirits of your ancestors, or whoever spirits these are. For you to obtain something from them, sometimes you have to do rituals. Sometimes you have to perform certain things at rivers, at dams. You have to jump fires. There's a whole lot of things that you have to do. If you were to bring them in a religious context outside of Africa, you begin to see an element of demon worship. You begin to see an element of magic. Therefore, now you are not speaking about the spiritual world. You are now talking essentially about magic, and you are now talking essentially about things that are concerning dark magic as well, black magic involved as well in these practices that we call African spirituality. And another thing that's very important, you must think about the fact that nobody in Africa wrote about African spirituality till this day. Nobody in Africa wrote about African spirituality till this day. So specifically, nobody knows what African spirituality was like years ago. Hundreds of years ago, nobody knows what African spirituality was like. So they cannot come here and tell you that this is African spirituality, this is how we were believing and worshipping before the Europeans came, before the Arabs came, before the Chinese, before all of these people came. This is how we knew God, this is how we knew spirituality, because they would be lying to you. There is no book, there is no scroll that's written to say that this is how African spirituality has been throughout time. This is how we worship God throughout time. So you must be careful for you to conflate, or for you to try and put on the same pedestal the worship of spirits, which some of these spirits you never knew. Yes, there might be the spirits of your forefathers, your grandfathers, your grandmothers, but some of these people were evil upon this world. Some of these people were very bad people. And you are the one now who wants to believe in African spirituality and believe in these spirits which you have no connection to. You do not know those people. Believing in them becomes very, very difficult, because there will come a time when they need something from you. And if you do not perform that thing, they cause problems in your lives. Tell me if that is not works of evil spirits, principalities in dark places. It's an exchange. As they always speak about selling your soul and all of that, it's an exchange. You do this, I do that for you. When it comes to religion, it speaks of a holistic God who loves you regardless of you doing something. Actually, he doesn't need you to do anything for him in order for him to love you, in order for him to give you life, in order for him to give you prosperity. Going into African spirituality becomes dangerous because you need to do something in order for you to get something. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for African spirituality, I'm all for Pan-Africanism, I'm all for being black, I understand that. But I'm also for the protection and the shielding of the black race. You must understand, going into African spirituality, it will not be easy. It's going to be very tough for you, and you're going to find yourself victim to many demonic attacks.